I've been doing sit-ups. I've been doing chin-ups. I've been doing pull-ups. I threw up once, but I'm okay now.
What's up, and welcome to a Wednesday edition of the Ysn Power Hour. DJ Yoakley on this side, live from World Headquarters. Richie on the road, being a road warrior, and covering the Scrappers here tonight. Whew, it was a rough one last night, huh?
Another long one, yeah. I mean, starting pitching's just been the troublesome effect for the Scrappers so far this year. I mean, they've had as many hits as their opposition, but, I mean, when your starter's only giving you 3 1/3 and 4 innings a night, it's kind of hard to compete when you're down 5-0 after 3. And that's kind of been the theme and something that Anthony, Romo, and myself talked about last night. If you don't get starting pitching in this league, you're going to have a trouble winning ball games. And that's kind of what has happened so far at home.
Well, isn't that essentially baseball? If you don't have the pitching, you don't got a shot?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I don't want to make it simple and simplify it, but really, yeah. I mean, you know, you and I are both baseball guys.
Good. Their bullpen's been really good.
But, dude, you got to be like, again, you got to be able to get to that bullpen in the 6th inning and not the 3rd inning. You know, one of those things. So, incredible. The Scrappers, we love you. We love you. We're rooting for you. By God, are we rooting for you. But at the end of the day, goodness, the back ends of this first 2 seasons have not been good to our boys over at Beastwood. So, hopefully we can get that rectified moving forward. I know my boy Jordan Taylor out there is doing the best, and Heather doing a wonderful job of marketing the Scrappers. They had another good night last night. Even though it rained, they still got the game in. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve Ruben had something out there that was the only tarp pull of the season. There's been no delays and no cancellations. So that is big. I mean, you typically don't see that during, and we probably just jinxed it. But the reality is there's only a few homestands left. So if you haven't seen the Scrappers this year, get out and see them. Support them, please. I mean, there's Buck Nights coming up tomorrow, as a matter of fact, right?
Tomorrow night.
So get out there. If you're not going to a football game, make sure that you're going to the Scrappers game. Get out there and support local talent because it's important. You know, we wanted to keep the Scrappers here. There's the Save the Scrappers campaign. They were saved. Now you got to support them. You got to back it up in that capacity as well. So make sure you're getting out to Eastwood Field and supporting the Scrappers. Richie, it's a big day. We got a lot to talk about. We got TJ Parker interviewed up and ready to go. I love this interview. I think there's a lot of different aspects that people have wanted to know. He was watching last night along with so many others for the Channel 21 Roundtable. Champ Summers, myself, Greg McAfee, and, of course, Dana Balish. We were all there, and there was a lot of good conversation. There was a lot of stuff. And Dana's not afraid to touch the hot topic. Like, he came in the room and he said, listen, boys, we're just gonna talk. There's no commercials. There's no nothing. We're just gonna talk. And, like, they addressed Deshaun Watson at the end. They addressed Ohio State, Notre Dame. I'm sitting there. I'm like, I'm not touching some of this stuff.
That's you. We got the local stuff covered.
Yeah, you guys can have that. I don't want anything to do with it. They brought up Ohio. I got some feedback. People were like, why aren't you an Ohio State fan? You know, I passed on it. It's not that I'm not an Ohio State fan. I'm still I'm still sour from the way our guy Jim Tressel went out. Like, I still feel there's a little bit of bus hitting him and him taking one for the team. And, you know, it's why Terrell Pryor. I'm not a Terrell Pryor guy. I do not like him. He took one. The coach took one. The leader will always take one for the team. But Ohio State soured me in that manner. It's not that I hate him, but I just don't root for them, especially when we got a team like YSU where, they're local guys. They're our guys a lot of times. And you got Doug Phillips, who to me is, you know, in the shadow of Jim Tressel of people who I admire. So I'm taking heat though, man. People are giving me all kinds of grief about the Ohio State thing.
Well, if you think about it and you kind of fast forward 10 years later, that would not have been a big deal in this NIL age. Not at all.
A chance. And that makes you wonder what would have happened. You know what I mean? That would have been a slap on the wrist, would have been nothing. A pimple, if you will. It would just pop and it's out, and then, you fix it later. I'm just sour, and that's just me. If it happened, it's at home. I didn't know if I was supposed to reveal that yet. I didn't know. I had no idea if I ordered. Okay, so since it's out there, South Range had a fundraiser where you can buy a ticket for the football game and get that each week, and also a T-shirt. So there's 10 T-shirts, 10 tickets, all that stuff. And I'm all in. Like, anytime I can get my hands on T-shirts, I'm in. So I got hooked up. So Donnie Farron, which I think most people know, that's who that is he hooked me up. He said, "Hey, give me 100 because I don't need the ticket. I'm there anyway." And I'm happy to support it. And they got the blackout shirts going on, and I had that in my hand and I had this in my hand, and I thought, okay, this is wrinkled as all get out. But thank you, by the way, to John Barnes and the coaching staff at YSU women's basketball for taking care of me, with some swag. But I looked at my wife. I was like, "Is this too wrinkled to wear?" And she's like, "Yes, 100%." So I threw it in the dryer.
In 8th grade.
Yeah, like I'm terrible. I'm not going to iron anything. I'm going to throw it in the dryer, and the way it comes out is the way it comes out. And
my philosophy always is, you know what? I'm just going to wear the wrinkles out, right? You know what? I come downstairs, it's wrinkled. I'll wear it. Whatever. I don't care. The amount of times I had to go back upstairs and change because my mom wouldn't let me leave that front door because my clothes were either not matching or wrinkled.
Kat, listen, it doesn't get any easier when you get married. Like it just turns into it all over again. And this was my favorite. As I walk upstairs, I was like, "Is this wrinkled? Too wrinkled?" She goes, "The fact that you had to say 2 is a problem." And I was like, what else am I going to do? Like, I was dead set on wearing one of these 2 shirts, and the black one was eliminated because it was a South Range blackout. I didn't know if I was supposed to wear it today. I can't wear it technically tomorrow because there's 2 teams going at it. But I was planning on wearing it Friday. You know what I mean? So
talking about Thursday and tomorrow night, I mean, do you kind of want to preview that matchup and talk about who's going to be joining you in the booth? Because I think a lot of the fans on YSN are used to a certain name that's surrounded by a certain school, but he's kind of jumping ship a little bit down the line, staying in the same zip code in 4406, but he's moving stadiums this year. So
how about the pun there? A little pun, jumping ship for the Raiders. I like it.
Yep. You like that?
Gary Niddle is going to be joining me on the broadcasts this year. I'm excited for that. It's nothing against Canfield at all. It's just I think he wants to step into a different zone. And you know what the cool thing was is by doing that, he gave an opportunity to Kyle, which I thought was even cooler because Kyle is a guy that we want to keep around for a very long time. Having you 2 in the booth that are 2 Canfield guys, and Gary has experience at South Range. He was a coach at South Range, amongst other places. So, I think it worked out well. And Gary Niddle will be my color commentator this year. I'm excited for that naturally. And I think Kyle getting some experience with the best in the business isn't such a bad thing, my friend.
Yeah, I think he's excited. And, we're going to kick off the season tomorrow night and take the hour 15 drive up 11 to 90 and then get off at Spire Institute, which I didn't realize is right off of Route 90. So really not that bad of a drive.
It's beautiful. And we got a guy that actually works there. So we might need to hook you up with all that stuff. Pat works at Spire, so he might be able to take care of you with the Wi-Fi and all that stuff, so you don't have to burn through it. I think you need AT&T anyway. So
yeah, that's right. I picked up Don Files equipment, so I think he's got an AT&T box in there. So
beautiful. Well, we have you covered from pillar to post. We talked about it yesterday. We're not going to repeat it because you're going to hear about it tomorrow, and you're going to hear about it on Friday. But we did have a chance to talk to head coach of the Austintown Fitch Falcons, Mr. TJ Parker, earlier today. And here is what that gentleman had to say. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to dive back into the nest and feed it, because it's another season of Coach's Corner with the one, the only Mr. TJ Parker. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. Glad to be back.
Right? Oh, you're preaching to the choir, baby. It is a big year for you guys. Obviously, there's people that look at this team's roster coming in. You lost a lot, but that seems to be the song around the valley. That's a great class of 2021 that graduated. They moved on, but so do you. Now you have to turn the page as the head coach of Austintown Fitch. Take us through essentially what this team has to offer in 2022.
I think our guys, and when you look at this group especially, a lot of them have played young. I mean, if you were to look at our starting lineups and our rosters from the past 2 years, you would see at times freshmen and then sophomores and juniors playing with, which, as you mentioned, a great senior class. But those were the role players. This will be the first time where I believe we will not start a sophomore on our roster. We will be junior and senior heavy. I think you talk to people, I don't want to sugarcoat it in any way. It is a very talented roster. There is a lot of good guys, a lot of good football players on our team. It's just going to be about them accepting the challenge of how do we get all these pieces to fit and being a good team instead of more focused on individual goals. These guys, they're trying to meet ultimate team goals, and that's the challenge we're facing. It's an everyday challenge, but I'll tell you what, there's been a lot of growth. These kids are competitors and they're winners, and they want to do whatever it takes to win. At times, there's some hard coaching that, they need to get and find the way, but I'm proud of where we stand right now. I'm very, very proud of what you're going to see on Friday night. And I'm excited to kind of, there's a lot of names that were notorious with this program for years. And it's these guys' chance to kind of get their name and put their staple on this program.
I'm really excited because this is a year that, like a couple other coaches, you look at the Springfields and some of the big names that kind of worked their way back out of that program. For the first time, I think, since you've been at Fitch, you're now going to be a consistent underdog. Is that something that you feel good about? Does that make you feel comfortable not having to go in and be favored and not, I don't want to say not compete, but does it give the kids a little chip on their shoulder maybe each and every week?
I'll say this. At our place, the tides, they sway quickly.
Yeah.
Year one, when we were here, we weren't supposed to win a game, and then you win a couple, and the next thing, people are expecting this from you. Then that leads into year two, and they're expecting this from you. We go through some injuries, we drop a couple, then they think we're dead in the water, and then all of a sudden, here we come again. Yeah. So we talk about it. It's being a team that shows up every day and is consistent. We never want to get too high or too low. The world that we live in, and there's a lot of noise, but we talk to the kids about never getting high, never getting too low, and just remaining consistent in everything we do. So that role in terms of underdog, yeah, it's fun when people doubt us. It's fun to hear that people believe we're the underdog. But our staff, our players know that we believe that's going to change pretty quickly.
I mean, it's the expectation, right? It's the expectation rule. The guys in that locker room better expect to win each and every year in each and every game. So let's talk about that first game. An interesting one, to say the least. You've got a team flying in from Las Vegas in the Foothill Falcons. It's going to be the Battle of the Birds, the Battle of the Falcons at Falcon Stadium coming up. And I mean, what do you know about this team? And take us through a little bit. I know we talked a little bit about before we hit record, but how did you get this team? How did you acquire this game when most people are okay? Maybe Pennsylvania, maybe Indiana, maybe a team from Canada. But you guys went out, and this is a very good Foothill Falcons team that's going to be entering Falcon Stadium this week.
Yeah, I mean, where do I start? First, I guess how the game came about. Just in terms of scheduling, it's just been tough for us. All 3 years since I've been here, it continues to get tougher and tougher. And as much as we would like to stay in the area and play as many local teams as we could, that just doesn't seem to be possible. And we try, and we just haven't been successful with it. So now you start looking at, hey, what are you going to do here? And I think when you start chasing that rabbit hole of we're not in a conference, some of the weeks that we have open are later in the season. That makes it hard for all teams that are in leagues because that's when league games are. And then you look how late some of our cancellations, or when we found out that teams were not renewing our contract, you run out of options. And it's easy for say, like, play this team, play that team. There's so many logistics that go into it. And you're looking at a week one when myself and our AD, I mean, credit to Russell Hauser. I mean, we busted our butt on this, especially week one. There is not many states in the country that open up week one. And, finding out so late, the truth is what teams are left, and then do they want to play you? Mm-hmm. So then we just get down to things and say, hey, what could be a good experience for our kids? What's going to be a challenging opponent? Who can we get, playoff points from? All of that factor in, and you try to find the best fit. At the same time, you got to weigh, who wants to play you, and then usually the teams want to play you usually believe they can beat you. So it's like, it's tough, and we were fortunate to find, obviously 3 teams on our schedule very, very late that wanted to, play, and with the 2 out of state, this one in week one, we just got a publication. They're the 9th ranked team in the state of Nevada. They're an emerging program. All the 3 teams that we had to replace, of course, they were all Division I teams. So it's a challenge, but it's one that I think our kids are up for. The excitement of the unknown and not being familiar with that opponent, that is very different. Not being able to access, like, kind of, having your ear to the street. It's a little weird in that end, but it's going to be a challenge. They're a West Coast team. They're going to come, they're going to throw it. They have a very talented quarterback, very good group of skill. And when you look at them on paper, they're all going to look the part. But, the thing that I think excites our group is we get to represent Youngstown nationally. We get to represent Northeastern Ohio football nationally. And then we get to represent the state of Ohio nationally. And, it was mentioned on your show last night, like, yes, I mean, no matter what, when you play these games, I want to see our teams beat other states' teams because I want to tell everyone Ohio's the best. So I hope they come in here and our boys handle business, and then they go back and go undefeated in Nevada and win the state championship. That's our hope, but we'll see how it all plays out on Friday night.
So it's crazy because I didn't want to speak out of turn last night when I said that, but it really does feel like a heavyweight matchup feel. Like when Kelly Pavlik would fight for the world heavyweight title, he had the entire state of Youngstown literally behind him, and the state of Ohio kind of fell suit. Do you feel any added pressure, or is this a great opportunity to really put Fitch and slap that flag into the ground and say, hey, this is who we are. We're going to represent not just the people who graduated from Austintown Fitch, but entirely Northeast Ohio, everybody from Ohio, and really the Eastern Seaboard.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things where you can bring in certain teams that really don't bring sort of a name or a brand or the competition, any of that. And then people are saying like, oh, they just scheduled this game as a cake game or, something like that. It was one of those things where the second we scheduled the team, it perked everyone's ears up. Wow, a team from Las Vegas is coming to Youngstown, Ohio to play. Like everyone's question, how does this come about? How does this happen? This is, it's been done before, but wow, Austintown Fitch is doing it now. Okay. And then the more you start diving into it and you watch their films or you can find stuff on them from previous years, you're like, all right, this is no slouch. This is true West Coast football. The Nevada version of Austintown Fitch versus Austintown Fitch, the Ohio version. We don't have any state championships to our name. They don't have any state championships to their name. So, it's going to be a fun battle of what we feel are emerging programs in both states. And we're proud to represent Youngstown, Northeastern Ohio, and Ohio in that setting. And our kids are excited about that. We don't feel the added challenge. We actually like it. I think like when the stakes are high, that's what you want. And that's why you come here to play, like to play for, big pots and big games. Like that's why we're here.
No pressure, but I fully anticipate we're going to have a lot of people tuning in from Las Vegas and all over the country for this game, for you repping Ohio, man. So if you don't get the gold medal at the end of tonight or at the end of Friday night, for our views, I'm going to be a little bit disappointed.
All right, now the pressure's just built up.
All right, let's talk about this because I saw this pop up on my feed right before we came on. Brian Robinson up for the edge rusher of what the year? I mean, take me through this. How people can help him get to be seen because there's only 20 people that are selected, 20 players selected for this that you can go on and vote for them. We got to get Falcon Nation represented.
If there's one thing that Brian doesn't need help with, it's being seen. But if you run into the kid or when you interview him, he deserves everything that he gets. And he's, I think from every state they nominated an edge rusher. And then they're trying to pick one from the whole entire country. And I believe he's like in second right now, but if you could get out there and vote, we've posted that both on all our social media outlets, but he's just a great kid. He's worked for everything he has, and he's blown up and he deserves it. And this is just one of many accolades that has consistently came his way, and will continue to come his way.
We will put the link both in the description and on the post here for the Coach's Corner, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet. Make sure you get out and vote as many times. Again, we don't like competition at all here in Northeast Ohio. So, I mean, it's just one of those things we're passive aggressive when it comes to that. Get out and vote for B-Rob. All right, let's talk strategy. Devin Sherwood and so many people graduate. TJ, is it one of those situations where you can't replace a Devin Sherwood, or are you just looking to let your guys be who they are and blossom as they may?
Yeah, I think that's what we talked about, and I had mentioned before. Like, you're not going to replace guys like that. There's one Devin Sherwood, there's one Tyler Evans, Aaron Hively, AJ Bird. That group of senior class, Tyree Mitchell. There's one of those guys, Colin Moore, and you don't try to say, hey, we want you to be the next Devin Sherwood. We want you to be you. We don't want you to be the next Tyler Evans. We just want you to be you. And these guys who have kind of watched them operate and watched them have success, they're very different, but they plan to have success in their own right. And then you have to form your schemes and the team mentality to fit those pieces. So I think our staff on both sides of the ball has worked very, very hard to do that. And this will be the first time where we're returning a lot of guys back on defense. We feel strong about our defense. We're going to hang our hat on our defense. We're going to play fast. And then offensively, it's one of those things where we have two really, really good backs. We have a core of strong wide receivers. Our quarterback, Deshaun Vaughn, who, there's a lot of good quarterbacks in the Valley, but being left out of being a surprise in the Valley as a quarterback, I think he's going to surprise a lot of people this year and what he can do on the football field. And then, up front, our offensive line is continuing to develop, and they're up for the challenge this year also. So it's a very cohesive team that is learning how to play to their strengths, and through scrimmages and so forth through camp. We've kind of developed that, and I feel good at where we are right now.
I asked the coaches all this week. I mean, do you ever take time, especially week one, because it's one of those things. We don't know how they're going to travel from Foothill, but we do know that you guys have one of the best facilities here in Northeast Ohio, if not the country, in Falcon Stadium. Do you ever just take a moment to kind of look behind you or look around and take everything in, and the passion that you bring? I have to imagine it's got to be a little bit of a shot in the arm sometimes to turn around and see all that blue and red and white in the stands.
Growing up here, you kind of get so used to it. It's just what you expect. And I guess as like, you're always chasing perfection. So it's like, I guess I tend to find all the things that are wrong instead of, how fortunate we really are here. But I guess the one thing that is always a reality check for me, when we put in our new weight room, and then you have all these college coaches come in, and you take them over to the weight room, whether to see the guys or talk to the guys, and that's their first comment. Wow.
Yeah.
That lets you know kind of you're somewhere special. And then, as you're talking, we're going to undergo a $15 million project that's going to take down our infamous stands and rebuild that up, and then build an indoor. Very, very exciting times. But outside of being an alumni here and being born and raised here and being very proud of my community, the thing that draws me back to sacrificing all this time and doing this is obviously our community's commitment to the power of athletics and how it develops kids. And I think you're seeing that directly in Austintown. Our athletics are growing, our athletes are growing, and we're producing better kids and better people. And their commitment to that is now become the main reason why I am doing this. I want to stay here. As committed as they are, I want to be that committed to them. So that's kind of where it lets me know and understand, like, the whole walking to a place where they may have better facilities than us and all that. That's fine. But having the opportunity to build it and continue to grow, I think, and be better every year, that's really the challenge and kind of the excitement and the vibe that I like about Austintown.
I think everybody's looking forward to that project and it being complete, because that's going to be a state-of-the-art facility that you've had a lot of hands in that community. So congratulations on that. Let's take it off the field for a minute and for the last question. So you are a optimistic young man in many different scenarios. Is there anything that really irks you? I know Coach Yeagley said it was social media that really got under his skin a little bit, but you embrace social media. I'm just surprised you don't have a TikTok channel yet yourself from that standpoint.
Yeah, obviously social media doesn't bother me. I don't necessarily love it because it's a beast, but I use it to promote the program and our kids. I don't really use it for personal gain. What irks me, I think, when you're talking about that, I think the whole individualism of our society and how nothing's ever good enough. You continue to build, and this is not kids, it's everyone around. like I just mentioned, a lot of people focus on what's wrong instead of what's right. And I think that is what kind of irks me the most, because our society now is moving so fast. Like, I feel like you never get to smell the roses as you're passing. You only really get to when it's too late and those times have passed you by and you have to reflect. And then you realize how truly special it was. And that's what irks me, how fast time moves and how people want to just continue to push the envelope faster and faster. And you really don't get to stop and enjoy things because, like you mentioned, I'm a very competitive person. So I tell our kids we want to lead from the front. So we'll go as fast as anyone wants to go. But that's a challenge at times. And you just want to slow down and really say, hey, these moments were special. Let's enjoy them. But you know, after Friday night, we're going to be on to Canton McKinley, so it's the way it is. But that kind of irks me, I guess I should say.
I don't blame you, man. I hope you have a chance to sit back, smell the roses, and enjoy this ride this week, because this is a very special week for you. Obviously, it could be a very special season for you. We're all rooting for you and hope and wish all the best for you. TJ Parker, thanks for joining us on Coach's Corner. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, DJ. Take care.
Gotta unmute the mics. So there you have it. This is also not Running Point. That show already occurred. TJ Parker, one of my dudes. I mean, he's one of those, down since day one guys. That is obviously the head bird over there at Austintown Fitch when it comes to the football program. But I thought it was an interesting conversation. There's a lot of people last night that were not, I don't want to say upset, but there's a lot of hands in the air saying, well, why don't you just play this team and this team and this team? And it's easier said than done, because there's a lot of things that happen internally that nobody knows about. And I got to be honest, I said it on the show last night, and I'm glad he alluded to it, today, that I'm proud and I'm excited for this team from Las Vegas to come in. I want to see the brand of football they play, because if they're I think he said, ninth best in the state?
Ninth best team in Nevada.
If they're the ninth best in the state, where do we stack up when it comes to that? Because, again, it's like apples and oranges when you talk about high school football from state to state. And with Austintown Fitch, they truly are one of the best in the area. So it's tough. You're smiling. I wonder what's going on.
So, talking about them being ninth best in the state of Nevada. So Romo did a little research on them before his game on Friday night, and he sent me this. So he found a kid. His name's Lawrence Houston, who plays for Foothill High School. They got him listed as 6'7", 415 pounds on the defensive and offensive line.
That's a man.
And he's got some big time recruits. He's going to visit USC in June. So, I mean, he is at the
Maybe
front.
He'll visit Ohio State while he's out here, huh? Oh, sorry.
Maybe. And, that's awesome for a guy like Brian Robinson, who Coach Parker kind of touched on. Robinson's another guy that's 6'4", 230 on the defensive end, and, a tight end as well for the Falcons. So, you want to be the best, you got to face some of the best. And I think he's going to get a taste of that, on Friday night when they play Foothill. So it's going to be one of the most exciting matchups that we're going to have throughout this season. When you bring in a team from Las Vegas to take on a Youngstown team, there's going to be, a lot of grit from our Youngstown guys, and we're going to root for them and be by their side the entire way. But, after the Foothill game, it gets even tougher. This Austintown Fitch schedule is absolutely stacked this season. They're going to play Canton McKinley. They're going to play Ursuline. They're going to play a team from New York, Washington, Wadsworth, Glen Oak, Boardman, Harding. I mean, it is the hardest schedule that we have seen by a high school football team around this area in a very long time.
I agree wholeheartedly with you. And they were talking, Champ Summers brought up a point, I think, pardon me, there's only one common opponent, and it was Warren Harding between Fitch and Boardman. I mean, that's crazy. But there's a lot of people that want to have their hands in that pot and talk about it without knowing the behind-the-scenes situations. And trust me, I firmly believe that Fitch would play local teams had there not been situations that had occurred. And we're not going to get into those situations, but there's certainly elements of that people know nothing about, that they are just going to dance over and say, well, you don't play that. Like, I wish that Crestview and Columbiana played, but there's situations that dictate that, this team doesn't want to play this team, or this team doesn't want to play that team. It's what it is nowadays. You just have to accept it, because in the world of open enrollment, the world of kids moving different places, that's a lot of it. And I don't think we're hiding the 600-pound gorilla in the room. That's a lot of the situation with a lot of these schools playing each other is, hey, if you're going to take our kids, we're not going to play anymore, because we're not going to play our own kids. And that's, I can't argue with that. As much as I want to see him play, Rich, I can't argue with that at all.
And honestly, something we've talked about a lot throughout our shows, and, maybe even off the record a little bit, sometimes there's no beneficiary winner, because you could be a D2 school playing a D6 school. If the D2 school were to win, what does that do for them? Really? Not much.
Okay, so let me ask you this. This question popped up yesterday, and I thought about it. I didn't have much time to think about it, to be quite honest with you, but I thought about it on the way home. If you had the opportunity to play, let's say, put yourself in an AD role. If you had an opportunity to play your rival, who you don't play anymore, in a week 11 situation, or you had to have 17 weeks, or it came at, I guess that's the better question. You had to play that rival in week 11, or the playoffs went 17 weeks. Which one would you rather have happen? I'm going rival all day.
I think I'm going to take the rival too, because look what has happened with a lot of the rivals around this area. They're depleted almost at this point. Maybe one sport you're going to get them, but, a rivalry is not just one sport, not just one game. It's every single sport and, every single year. But we've seen a lot of those rivalries around this area crumble due to that fact. And, I get it, because a lot of division changes have occurred over the last couple of years. So, some schools might not want to play another school because they're a division up or a division down. And a lot of the conferences are a lot different than what we saw, back in the day. So like he said, Coach Parker did, he's not in a conference anymore. So when you find a week 7 opening, everybody's playing conference ball during that week. There's maybe 1-2 schools around this area that might be open for that week. So like he kind of said, throughout his 3 years, it's very difficult to schedule. And that's why ADs try and get on top of it, years in advance. So they're not scrambling around this time. I know, Canfield had some openings and they were able to fill them with Bellevue, which is a team up in Toledo. But, it's a last minute scramble to find some of these teams. And, that's not the way you want it to be if you're an athletic director, as well as a head coach.
BMAC talked about it. He says, I love the national schedule. Honestly, it's different competition, but I like the national recognition. From our standpoint, there's going to be a lot of eyes from Las Vegas on Friday night. And there's a no doubt about it situation where, like, we were in the golf cart when they made sure that, hey, we're prepared, because we're going to have a lot of people watching this game with Romo and obviously with Steve that are going to be doing the play-by-play, because Ty is so cordial and picking up a game for us when we needed him most. So thank you to Ty. But we already answered that question today. Ty is still the voice of the Falcons, no doubt. But with all the games and situations on this Friday night, it's been crazy. Ty is taking one on the chin for us, and we appreciate that very, very much. But okay, so by the way, let's get I don't want to say quick break in. Let's do a little reader. I want to say thank you, because today, ladies and gentlemen, you see him all the time. You see him all the time on our network. Greenwood Chevrolet. They've been a huge supporter of YSN in the very early going of what we do. And today they signed on again for another year to support YSN. And I want to thank Greg Greenwood, the entire team, 898 Marketing, Jeff Risnar, who is the leader out there and another huge supporter of what we do here. I want to say thank you because with what they do and everybody, we hear it all the time. We see so many Greenwood ads. Yeah, and you will, because they're we again are loyal, and as are they. They signed on today. Could not be happier about it. To be able to have more opportunity to work with the Greenwood family and, of course, 898. So thank you very much. And obviously there'll be a big part moving forward. They sponsor the title sponsor for Running Point. They'll continue with that and lots more in the coming 12 months, because we're looking to expand. The one thing, Richie, to shift gears real quick, and let's see if I don't mess this up. This is one of the cool things that we were able to get with some of that some of our sponsorship stuff. So we have that. Look at this. Nobody behind the camera. Will it follow me? No, of course it won't, because it's on the air. So I don't know. We got this new camera. I still got to work out the kinks in it. But I was showing you before, like it'll follow you all the way over to Mike's set. So this is going to be cool, and we couldn't do it without. And also, by the way, as we have Radar's write-up in the comment section on Facebook, Radar, if you're out there, we're just going to turn you into a writer. We're going to take all this stuff that you wrote here on this show, because there's no way possible that we can address it, and we're going to put it in a content format, and we're going to put it on ysnlive.com, and we're going to call it On the Radar. So, or maybe Off the Radar with Radar Pavlov, and we'll make you a writer, so that way you can contribute and obviously get some extra scratch for yourself down the road. So BMAC, here we go. I even like when local schools play teams from Columbus, Cincy, Toledo in regular season. So and I'm not against that, but Cincy, isn't Cincy, and it's like Cincy and then the MAC schools out the West, they're the ones that always bring home the bacon. They're always bringing home state titles. And I don't think anybody here is afraid to play them, but this came up last night. Like, you have to be careful who you play in state, because you might wind up playing them down the road in the playoffs. So, I mean, that's a situation that I think is legit. I think you can't put too much on tape, especially when you're playing that team, and give them a leg up and an advantage in the playoffs, where it's, as Mike Tomlin says, the tournament, right?
And I will give credit to one team. And, this isn't just football. This is baseball, and it's Hamilton Little League down there in Cincinnati. They continue to win the 12U state tournament every single year. And they've been in the Great Lakes region for the past 9 years, like in a row. They continue to win it. And, that's a Cincinnati product as well. They're kind of north of the city, obviously, because south here in Kentucky, but north of the city and kind of wedged in between Cincinnati and Dayton. But, that's a team that everybody has their eyes on when it comes to Little League baseball in the 12U tournament. But then you got teams like Archbishop, Moeller, who are really good around that area. And you move up north a little bit, and then you get into like the Coldwater region and that division, which is, D6 and D7. So a lot of talent on the west side of the state, and, it's a lot of fun.
Romo chiming in and says, Hubbard played Hamilton in high school baseball down in Tennessee his junior year. Complete different animal. Well,
they got high schools there, actually.
Well, here's interesting, right? If you scroll back the hands of time a little bit, just a couple years, Boardman, 11U baseball team, played Hamilton in the state championship. Boardman won. It was unbelievable. It was true, and I think it was at Cambridge, if I'm not mistaken, that all went down, and people got so mad. I was hooked up to a generator at the time because there's no electric over there in Cambridge. They got so mad that they unplugged my generator. Like, I couldn't. At the end of the game, they unplugged the generator. There was fights in the stands. Like, you can tell that Hamilton's not really used to coming up with silver. Yep. And that's a memory, I think, that those young men will have for a long, long time, especially the parents, that will have for a very long time. And gives them a little bit, I don't want to say hope, but gives them a little bit of, hey, if we can beat Hamilton in baseball, we can do anything, But Hamilton, yes, you're right. Completely different animal. And I've also heard that from 11 to 12, their 12-year-olds come back from all the travel ball, and that's why they're so incredible at that level. So not to take anything away from Boardman, but there you go.
I mean, they made it to the Little League World Series championship last year against Michigan. Both Great Lakes teams did. I mean, when it was COVID, they added 2 teams from each region because they didn't bring in the international kids. And then both Great Lakes teams made it to the championship. It was Michigan and Hamilton.
Unbelievable. I mean, Hamilton is, you want to play some baseball, go down and play them, or bring them up and play them. I'm interested. It's probably not the time or day to talk about conferences and stuff like that, because we've got some conferences that have some holes in them. And I'd love to address that in the next couple shows if we could. But obviously, with tomorrow being Thursday, programming note for everybody: no Power Hour on Thursdays. No Power Hour on Thursdays for at least the regular season for football, because at 5 o'clock we will have the primetime. YSN primetime returns. We will go from spot to spot all the way around the clock from 5 to 6 o'clock. And of course, following that will be football kickoff right here on YSN. You only got to go to one place for all of it here on the network. So if you're looking for you're looking for Power Hour, they both have P's. So I should have done better in, differentiating them. But Primetime's such a good
name.
It's a good name. It's a good name. So if you're looking 3 o'clock and don't see my ugly mug tomorrow, you'll know why. Because we have a lot of stuff going on. And then Friday, we have what we're calling the YSN Power Hour Super Show, to which we will have just straight pick 'em. We might talk about the games. We'll address the games, certainly. But we're going to have a full tilt of guests. They might be players, probably not going to be coaches. They're probably a little busy on Fridays. But certainly we will have a full slate of announcers who will talk about the games, and we will pick the games as we did each and every week last year. I know the kids love it. Parents love it. Get people psyched. That there are to me, they're our best shows of the year, and that's saying something, because I think we put on some entertaining stuff here on YSN. But those are certainly juicy tidbits for people to kind of ingest going on Friday night. You excited about that, Rich?
I mean, we might have to have different announcers come in, because you're only allowed 10 on this stream, right?
True. We might have to pick up a Zoom or something.
But the good thing is, I mean, you'll have myself, probably Quinn, down at HQ. So we're only using one box there. And then we could allow 9 more announcers and guests that could come into the show. But, when you look at the games, and I believe, 17 on Friday night, 9 on Thursday night?
23 on Friday night. Yeah.
A little off. 23, even better. I mean, you multiply that by 2, you're not going to be able to get everybody in on the show. So it's kind of the early bird gets the worm in that sense, where you're going to have to show up early, and if you get in, you get in.
And we will have pick'em, so we'll be able to address it, and we will again put it on the website. So listen, it's feet to the fire this year, baby. It's if you pick somebody, people are going to know about it. We'll have the YSN picks each week on Friday, and we'll have them, trying to have them going into the show, so that way we can make some graphics about it and make sure it's all pretty for everybody to digest. But I'm excited, man. It's been a great week leading up to tomorrow night. Volleyball kicks off tips off on Saturday. We've got a slew of games, and Anthony's excited. I know that, because he's ready to go. He was all rumbled up on his way out the door today, because he's coming back tomorrow to do Audible Call back-to-back nights, which means they're all getting fed Pizza Joe's. They're all excited about that. But we got some good games tomorrow night as well. I mean, these are no slouch games week one. There's no cake to be eaten in the first week of the season, Rich. What game are you most looking forward to that you're not announcing?
Ursuline and Brookfield. That's all I've been hearing for the last 3 weeks is Ursuline and Brookfield everywhere I go. And we've been talking on it. This guy right here, since he's calling the game, everywhere we go, they talk about Ursuline and Brookfield.
Naturally. I mean, it's going to be a great game. Now, I will say this. There is potential for a blowout. I'm not going to say who, but the potential, honestly, on both sides, the potential is there, because I firmly believe that there's a different psyche that you have to have when you walk into Stambaugh Stadium. It's much bigger. The sound is different, especially from Brookfield, because that is an intimate setting, right? That is you're hearing cowbells, you're hearing everybody. The best chance Brookfield has is to bring the entire town and load up the stadium. And because Ursuline, while they are mighty, they got to be able to bring it. And you just never know what crowd's going to show up for Ursuline on any given night, especially early on in the season, because the kids aren't in school yet. You can't get hyped up all day and then go. So it's going to be interesting to me what that crowd looks like, what the feel is of the stadium. Is the moment too big for Brookfield? I don't think so. But on the other side, there's a lot of questions for Ursuline. I mean, who's going to be quarterback? We still have not heard with conviction who the quarterback is going to be. And everything else is pretty much settled, I think. But it's who's going to show up. And if I'm Dan Reardon, that's staying close to the vest anyway. You'll find out when you find out. And it might be a mix.
You're right. They might dual thread it. But, I'm going to show this one comment from Radar, and he's got like 20 of them. But this is one of the games that I'm looking forward to.
Yes.
Cheney and Poland. I think this is sliding under the rug for everybody. But, with Hewlett coming back, and we talked about this before, I think this is actually going to be one of the best games of the week. I mean, Cheney, he's got him beating Poland 30-20. I think it's going to be a game as well.
I'm interested. Last night I heard that Jason Hewlett might not play quarterback this year. Like he might play a different position because they have that much confidence.
Really?
Yeah. So
wow.
He can hurt you from anywhere on the field. And Seth Antrim, being an offensive-minded guy, might be putting that in the back of his mind and saying, hey, listen, we can always go to him. But you have another weapon on the field.
Listen, I mean, you can move them all over the place. You could sweep them. You could run them in the flats. And once you get that guy the ball with some open space, good luck trying to tackle him. So
it's a Cincinnati commit, man.
As long as they can get him the ball, that's the biggest thing. Get him the ball. Just put it in his hands. And if they can't, then they might have to move him back to, his regular position at QB. But
good problem to have, though, right?
Move. Yeah.
Good problem to have, yeah. And talking to some folks from Poland, they're young. They're young. But if you know Poland, and I know you do, you know that team down 224, they earn their stripes quick. They're not one that's going to sit there and just take a beating. They're going to stand up and want respect. And this is I said it to the athletic director today, Brian Banfield. I said, listen, if you're able to come away with a victory in week 1, you're good. You're ready. I mean, that's the biggest win of the year, possibly, and the biggest upset of the year if you're able to come away with a dub.
No, I 100% agree with you on that. You always want to get off on a good note. And, for Poland in the NE8, nobody really knows what that conference is going to look like right now. So many key pieces from last year have left. I mean, when you look at, TC Caffey, who went to Ohio State, he was the biggest name last year in the NE8, of course, from Hubbard. But, you lose a lot of those pieces. And we were talking about this a little bit at the golf outing as well. We don't know what that NE8 is going to look like. So it's going to be fun to watch week 1 in the NE8 in every conference because, it's a fresh season. And like every year, it always turns over. There's always seniors that move on. And, week 1 is always the best to look at and say, okay, this team's going to be all right, or this team might have a little bit of trouble in certain aspects on the field. So I always enjoy week 1 and week 2 because you really get that true feeling on how a team's going to be in those first 2 weeks.
Brookfield, man. There's a lot of hype around Brookfield this year, and for good reason. They're going to be good. I really do believe they're going to be good, but they're going to be tested week 1. And I think that's what they want. When you talk about, Randy Clark, he wants to be tested. He wants to make a run later on in the year. I mean, there's a lot of people that think that, Brookfield's just going to run over Ursuline or Ursuline's just going to run over Brookfield. I think we're in for a battle. I really do. But again, some of the comments I heard and have been hearing, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked if it's a blowout either way either. It's just one of those games where, there's so much hype around it that you're almost feel like you're jinxing it. You know what I mean?
And, the same goes with South Range and Springfield. I don't really know what to expect in that game either. I mean, new quarterback in Colton Rourke, who's going to take over for Springfield, from which I've been hearing a little bit. And then, of course, South Range, they still got their quarterback, but they lost a couple key pieces as well. And, that's going to be another fun game to watch. And, of course, that team better than anyone. But, I just don't know what to expect coming into that primetime on Thursday night. You never know, because Springfield's very well coached, one of the best coaches in the area, and so is South Range. So, it's going to be fun to see when that ball's kicked off on Thursday night.
I'm with you. And what's interesting to me is all I've heard is, the big question mark's going to be the offensive line. They lost a lot, did South Range. And now after the showing against West Branch, I think that they at least have some confidence going into the first game. They at least have a little bit of push and momentum and belief in themselves and each other that they can move mountains. And I really think with a leader like Chris Colucci, who's your only returning starter on that line, it's going to be really interesting to see what South Range can put together. Because if that's your only question mark, and that the showing that they had at West Branch against West Branch and that scrimmage, that's what you're basing everything off of. Ladies and gentlemen, look out. And I'm not saying this because I'm a South Range announcer guy, first one on the wall. I'm saying it from a standpoint of that's a dangerous team that no longer has to deal with Kirtland. And I know people are tired of hearing about Kirtland, but the reality was those were the last 3 losses that South Range has suffered. Other than I think a game against Niles, South Range is yet to lose a game in the NE8. Like they're going into the season as the favorites, certainly, right? Whereas even last year, they weren't the favorites. Now I think with almost certainty, they're the favorites in the NE8, which is going to be interesting because there's going to be a lot of teams that have something to say about it. And South Range goes from being the hunters to being the hunted officially. So
you got the target on your back. You're going to get everybody's best on that Thursday or Friday night, which you play. So it's going to be a lot of fun, really. I'm looking forward to the high school football season. I mean, you talked about it a little bit. I wasn't too ready for it the last couple of weeks because I was still in that baseball mode, right, with Class B, and then you transition over to the Scrappers, and we were still doing some intermediate and Little League baseball here and there. So it's always that baseball mentality, which I've had for the last 6 months. And then you got to, flip that switch and go back into football season, which I wasn't quite ready for just yet. But, now that it's coming up for tomorrow night, I think I'm ready now.
Siggy says that Beaver Local and Indian Creek is low-key one of the games we should be watching. And I don't disagree. I think we don't know anything about Indian Creek because they're not with us. But from what I've heard, Beaver Local is going to be a terror this year with all they have, all the weapons they have. And I think we all know McNuggy's going to have some fun.
Oh, yeah. He was excited for that first game. He said the first 2 weeks are going to be a challenge for Beaver Local, but after that, he thinks that they've got a very favorable schedule. So if they could, surpass those 2 weeks with a W, I think they're going to, go for a really good season, hopefully 8-9 wins.
Hey, Richie, got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you like AC/DC?
I do.
Because here comes the spark. It's the Joe Dickey Electric What's Your Spark, presented by our friends over at DickeyElectric.com. Anything commercial, residential, anything electrical, you need to get with my boy Eric Carlson and his team at Joe Dickey Electric today. Do not try to do it yourself. You will hurt yourself very badly if you're trying to do electrical work and you're not used to it. Leave it to the pros. Stevie Les will tell you. You don't want to stick a fork in an outlet. You don't want to be that guy. So head on over to DickeyElectric.com and get squared up today. Richard, what is your spark today?
My spark is from Radar. I mean, he broke down all 9 games for us, so we had a little bit of help in the comment section. And I'll put the last one up here. I know it might take away our faces, but the matchup between Brookfield and Ursuline. Brookfield, like we said, has the offensive line, but Ursuline has the speed on the edges, and he's going to give a slight edge to Ursuline, 35-28. And then he kind of wraps it up and he says these are his predictions for 9 area games. And I think we got something with that writing aspect from Radar. He's able to break down each matchup like that in a paragraph on, just StreamYard. What can he do in a column writing wise for us? So that's my spark.
I love it. Bringing more people into the fold. And we are going to bring even more people into the fold. Had a great conversation today with somebody who's pretty well known for production. And it sounds like, and I don't want to jinx anything or get ahead of myself, but it sounds like YSN production going up, baby, through the roof. So the only knock that people had on us was the production value. And ladies and gentlemen, we're working on that as we speak. Excited for it. This camera, dude. This camera is awesome. It is unbelievable. Like, let's try it one more time, right? See if it does it. Lock.
There you go.
Oh, I saw it move. Come on, baby. One time. One time for the one time. Was it this way? There it is. There she goes. I love it. Tiger's here. He loves it. I love it. Richie loves it. And Mike Ackelson will surely love it because it's automated. You got the YSN wall with all our teams on it. Man, let's go. It's time to play some offense. Let's do it. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I'm geeked up more than I've ever been geeked up before about a football season and a fall season because we got soccer and volleyball on Saturday. I know you got a couple soccer matches on Saturday.
Yeah, I got volleyball in the morning and soccer in the evening.
I got 4 games. 4 games, 3 volleyball and a soccer one. So
you got me.
I'm excited, man. Going to be a big week. We'll talk about it. You will not see us here at 3:00 tomorrow. Again, programming note, no 3:00 show, Power Hour on Thursdays. You'll have to wait till 5:00, and we discuss all the football there is to discuss on Thursdays starting tomorrow night. For Richie Giuliano, my name is DJ Oakley. This has been the Power Hour. We will see you tomorrow at 5:00 on YSN Primetime. So long, everybody. YSN thanks you for watching this